Alright, this is for 7th grade, 1-point perspective, bird's eye view. You start by putting a dot in the middle, and then we come in, just like with anything else we do, we take our ruler, and we're going to line it up with the edge of the paper. We're going to make 2 vertical lines. Any vertical or horizontal lines have to be lined up at the end of the paper. And I know my paper doesn't look vertical right now because I'm kind of off to the side. There we go. Vertical and horizontal lines have to be lined up. The end of the ruler has to be lined up with the edge of the paper. So that's one vertical to the left, and then we're going to do another one to the right. They're just going to be roughly in that spot. There we go. So next thing you do is you start building your buildings. I like to turn my paper, even though we are working in landscape, I like to turn it portrait to work on the ends. So I'm going to go in, line up with my vanishing point, and pull towards me. I'm going to stop at that line so that I don't have to erase this, but it always lines up with the vanishing point, even if it doesn't look like it. Alright, so I actually end up wanting to see the top of this building, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn back to landscape, and I'm going to pick a point on the building, erase these lines, and turn back to portrait. Take from here, line up with the bottom of the paper. I line up with the bottom at the top because I can't easily see the top. Now, you could have left this building going off the paper. That is totally up to you. So that would be like our first building. Generally, when you see buildings, they have space between them. So the way you would do that is you would come in, line up, draw your next building. I want this one to be about this tall. And I'm going to come in, line up with my vanishing point yet again, and draw another line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this point where it meets on that line, I'll line up with the bottom of my paper, and create a perfectly vertical line. This is not going to be crooked, none of that. It's perfectly vertical. Up and down, up and down. I'm going to come up here to the top of this one, draw a perfectly vertical up and down. And then I'm going to come in, turn my paper, line up this point, and then line up the edge of the paper with the bottom of my ruler, draw that. Then come here where these 2 lines meet, line up with the bottom of my paper, my ruler, to make another vertical line. And there we go, I have 2 buildings with some space between them. And you would just continue that. And then you would do the same thing, just kind of in reverse on this side. Remember, I'm right-handed, so I'm keeping my hand on the right side of the ruler, versus if I was left-handed, my pencil and hand would stay on the left-hand side. And I would do it this way. You don't want to cross if you can avoid it. I'm going to come in, do my next building. Always, every converging line lines up with that vanishing point. Any other line that is not a converging point, that does not lead back to this, so any line that is not a diagonal line, because all diagonal lines lead to here, is going to be a straight vertical or horizontal line. And you always line up with the edge of your paper to get those. So once again, line up. See, I'm coming down, I'm lining up with the edge of my paper. And see, I accidentally left a little space, so now what I need to do is go back in, line up with that line and that vanishing point, and finish out my building. Erase the little bit I don't need. Come in where these 2 lines meet, line up with the bottom of my paper because it is a vertical line. Same thing here, where these 2 lines meet, line up with the edge of my paper. and draw a vertical line. And that's your third building. Now, could you draw a much shorter building? Yes, you could. I'm going to draw one about this size. I'm going to let that go off the paper because when I turn this to go draw this one, I always line up with the edge of the paper. I'm not lining up with that line because that makes a crooked line, and that any on all diagonal lines would lead to the vanishing point. So this does not make sense. So what we do is we line up here, line up with the edge of our paper, and go off the paper. What that is that's a part of the building we don't see, but it is there. So then we turn our paper, line up with the vanishing point, and then we draw it to here. And we can decide, because we actually see this part of the building, how wide we want this to be. So then we could come here. Don't line up on the corners. So I either want to come down here like I'm about to, or go up further. I'm going to go about this far, line up with the edge of the paper before I draw. Line up with the edge of the paper. Sorry. And draw. What it is that part of the building's going off. Now, I did forget something. I forgot to do this line. Just turn it, line up with the edge of the paper, and there you go. Now, if I wanted to do building out here, once again, don't line up with the corner of buildings because that's not going to look right. Now, I can stop right there if I want. We'll go off the paper. Just do the same thing here. Line up with the edge of the paper. And line up with the edge of the paper where these two meet. And there we go. I have some buildings. And then you would just repeat that until your side is full. Like so, we could come over here. Do another short building. I'm going to line this up with the bottom of the paper like I did before. And it goes off the paper, and that's 100% okay. And I take this, line up with the bottom of the paper. I won't see that one, and then I decide how wide I want this building. I want it to be about this wide. Let's make it a little wider. There we go. So then I have that building, and then for that area, I can either choose to do what I did here and draw another building there, or line up with this area and just draw a line showing that it is going off the paper. Once again, I forgot this line, so I just come down, line up with the edge of the paper, and draw a straight vertical line. Now, mind you, generally you would see other buildings, but most likely for these, we won't see the finished parts of them. So we would just see that. And it looks weird. That's because of the angle it's at. Because it's bird's view, it would go like that, and that's okay. Come in, do another one. I can just pretend come in, line up. I could pretend that that's something else right now over there, and that's okay. So, I then have that filled in, and then I would turn, and then I could start on that side, and it's almost the same process. So, I will see you again. It's actually the exact same process, just what I would do is come in. Not every building is the same height, so if I want to come in and say stop this building here, that is okay. So you would just come in, line up with the edge of your paper, erase what you don't need. Now I'm going to come in, I want this one to go to about here, this one to go to here, and these are vertical lines, so they're going straight up and down. I'm lining up with the edge of the paper, same with these. I'm not trying to line up where I ended my things because that's not straight. I'm always going back to the edge of the paper, and I can erase what I don't need. So that could be my first building on the next side. And then we would fill out the sides just the way we did this.